Today we are talking about how to set up terrain so that it's cool, and then the implications of new terrain rules. Not the things we have been told, but the things we can figure out and how that will change the game. I am strangely obsessed with terrain. It interests me and I want my boards to look pretty. To other people they are a background, to me they are the moment. They are the focus of the fight, perhaps more than the units and armies fighting. On another app I am in a group that just shows off pictures of terrain that they made or painted. No models, that gets you banned. Though a model on terrain that you made to show off scale, that is permitted. Terrain, like many things in 40k, is changing in 10th edition. How was the board set up in the past? In 6th edition you would divide up the board into 24 by 24 squares, and then roll a d3, and that would be the amount of terrain in that square. So a 6x4 board would have between 6 and 18 items of terrain. You would alternate with your opponent placing items of terrain so that it was fair. I still do it this way, I think it's really fun, and it makes it equal and you get a very interesting board out of it. Alternatively, if you're at a club, then the person who gets there first sets up the terrain, and the person who arrives second chooses the deployment zone, so that the person setting up the terrain first can't have it favour one side or the other. If I may quickly get out the 2nd edition style Battleotron, I have been playing since 2nd edition, I find these top-down token style explanations help. If you set up a building, and a wood, and a crater for each side, that is fair, but also super boring. Whoever saw a battlefield like that? Let it feel lived in. I suggest 2 options to change this. Start from the centre and work out. Now it is a public park, or manor garden in the middle of a part-bombed city. Or have the terrain in a 1-2-3 style, instead of exactly even on the board. So instead of this third of the battlefield having 2 bits, same as the middle, same as the right, have 1 piece of terrain, a wood, on the left, have 2 in the middle, a wood in a building, and then on the right have 2 craters in a building. Now you have a town on the edge of a wood. Your battle is in a meaningful place. And there is a more interesting tactical side. Infantry will do better on the right, vehicles on the left. You don't have to, and it depends where you place your objectives as to what you will go for. But it keeps the game interesting, and it is still fair, just not tournament fixed, made boring and clinically fair. One quick point on trees. This is an okay tree. You can see where the edges are, and it makes a nice barricade, and you can have areas delineated by 3 trees. This is a nicer tree. It can have a cardboard, and then you can clearly see where the edge of the area terrain is. And since you know I like 2nd edition, you are probably thinking that I will look at this tree and say it is the best. But it is awful. That is the kind of tree that you have on the floor. And as a child, you walk into a dark room and fall over and land palm first on that tree, breaking off 2 of the spikes. And it hurts a bit, but you don't notice that 2 spikes have broken off into the muscle of your hand. Just 1. The other one, half a centimeter long and cleanly broken, will stay in your hand for months. Then, when you are picking at a spot, a spelk of wood will come off that tiny spot on your hand, and you will realize that you have had a dead tree shard inside you for a very long while. So, how do individual pieces of terrain work with units in 10th edition? The terrain rules that people forgot have gone. Things like hard cover, +1 save in the first round of combat, defensible to get +1 to overwatch or +1 to hit in your first turn of combat, they are gone. So is dense cover, which provided -1 to hit. I'm not seeing many penalties to hit, only bonuses. Mentally, this makes the game more fun as you get rewarded rather than punished for doing things. I've learned that for videos too. My video on Imperial and Chaos Knights, up there, didn't have enough positivity and so got 20% to 80% dislikes to likes. That is a lot for my channel. Another annoying rule is gone, having movement penalties. None of the terrain shown off, and that should be all of the terrain types, have reductions to movement. It was a pain for slow moving models to basically not move at all, and you forget that armies like Leagues of Votann and Death Guard ignored this penalty. For all kinds of terrain Games Workshop has shown off, there is a common theme. I'm not going to list the terrain types one by one, that is something you can read yourselves if you wish, and I've put a link in the description next to my subscribe button. I provide a more in-depth look, and we are going even deeper. What is here that has not been explicitly stated that we can assume is a rule for 10th edition. Here is the evidence. If you come to a different conclusion than me, let me know. First point. Buildings still block line of sight. So unlike 8th edition, you can't shoot a tank half a town away because Mrs. Finnegan or whoever, who lives in the middle of town, left her window open. This means that it functions like 9th edition. If you are in a building, you can shoot out, or you can be shot at, but you get an improved armor save from the cover. A point we can take from these rules that Games Workshop has emphasized is that line of sight still exists, and probably like it does now. I have complained about that rule in my character video, which is up there. Basically, the rule stands as, to see if you have line of sight, look and see if you have line of sight. If you have line of sight, you have line of sight. I won't repeat myself on the issues or solutions with that rule, but line of sight will remain, much the same as now. The second thing we can draw from this information is this. If you get a cover save, is based on the model, not unit, model taking the save. Double check the wording yourself if you wish. I see some issues, but not serious ones from this. In 7th edition it was the same, and this meant units got cover even when most of them were out in the open. We will use 2nd edition Battletron again, but put it under 7th and then 10th edition rules. 5 Space Marines are shooting 10 termagants. Most of the termagants are in the open, but one is behind a barricade, and all firing Space Marines have the barricade between them and the gaunt. So in 7th edition, the whole unit would get the cover save, regardless of which model you took up. In 10th edition, the save is on a model by model basis, or it is that way as far as I can tell from the rules released so far. So if 2 wounds were scored, the Tyranid player could make a 5+ save on the back model, remember that is their armor save now, and remove them if it failed. Then the next save could be on the gaunt behind the barricade, saving on a 4+. You choose which model makes the save, and go from there. It is a little slower, but it stops something I had an issue with in 9th edition compared to 8th. In 8th, if my Imperial Guard squad was half in the building, half behind, they got the cover save. In the same situation in 9th edition, they would not get the cover save even though the only visible models were in the cover. The whole unit wasn't in, so no bonus. Now in 10th edition, I choose to take the save on a model outside, on a 5+, or on a model inside, on a 4+. Just going off the tokens, guess which regiment I play. Third point of note, being on top of a building has more benefit than before. Often it wasn't worth climbing to the 2nd level of a building, but now, like with city fight rules before, from 8th edition and earlier, your shots have -1 AP extra if you're shooting down to ground level. So there is more of a benefit to being on top of a building that is otherwise exposed. This doesn't seem to apply to elevated hills, which is a shame. It would have been cool. You're alone and exposed but undergo risk because your shots will be better. Risk for reward without direct penalties. Well, you can try it, but...
Don't try it! It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
Fourth, ruins, woods, hills and statues confer cover saves to most units. Barricades and craters, they are specifically for infantry. This is good news for your vehicles, but probably isn't going to mean too much because the best cover save caps at 3+. Terminators will still get their 2+ save, but Space Marines in power armor, chunky vehicles, can't get better than a 3+ save. This is somewhat bad news for Battle Sisters more than other factions. They have low toughness and relied on their armor save to carry them. But I see why the change had to be made. Countering the 2+ save of power armor and cover was part of the reason why so many units got a -1 rend on their basic weapons, because there was no ignore cover rule. There once again is an ignore cover rule for weapons like flamers to use, so that issue was resolved in another, better way. It is nice to have reduced cover save rules, and the plunging fire rule will be fun as long as you remember it. The tournament video I promised in the premiere video yesterday, I plan to have it done next, just got distracted by terrain. And then childhood memories resurfaced, and here we are. I hope to speak to you again, my darlings and viewers. Have a great day of 40k.